points out the obvious that newsprint and newsprint circulation is down. Just how bad is it?
Well, it's pretty alarming, I think, and the point that I was trying to make is I think it's worse than people think. The last widely publicly available figures are from 2013, and if you look at the more recent figures that are not as widely available, they show fairly different numbers.
Yeah. As bad as those numbers are, the delivery system has changed, you would agree. And I would say more people are reading the Boston Globe than ever before. They're just not reading it on newsprint.
There's no question about that. More people are consuming news, and more people are consuming the news produced by newspapers than ever before, and that's widely true. But the problem is that most of the revenues are still tied to the print newspapers.
Which now, if people were just listen to me, we would solve this problem instantaneously. And that is this. When I go to McDonald's and I buy a Big Mac, guess what? They force me to pay for it. So if newspapers were to force me to pay for their service, wouldn't that solve the problem overnight?
It might have, but I think that cat got out of the bag about 20 years ago.
Because
they started to give it away for free. And I think if McDonald's had spent 20 years giving you the Big Mac for free and you walked in one day and they asked you to pay for it, you might feel differently.
So you're saying that they can't go back. Once they've given it for free, they can't say now it's going to cost?
Well, I think it's increasingly challenging, and I think that you would need to make the product better and better when, unfortunately, in the face of now at least 10 years of cost cutting in most places, most people think the print product has deteriorated.
Yeah. Well, what about the New York Times charges, the Wall Street Journal charges? They do okay for themselves.
Well, the Journal, first of all, was the one exception. The Journal never gave it away for free.
Okay.
And the Times, which I think is unquestionably at this point the best newspaper in America, has really held the line against reducing quality. They are pretty much the only leading newspaper, with the possible other exception of the Journal, that hasn't cut their newsroom and that has continued to beef up the product.
But yet you have to pay. They have some type of paywall with the New York Times.
Oh, no, absolutely. What they've got was a meter, so if you use it frequently, you have to pay. But these two things have to go together. You can't change, a double hamburger to a single hamburger and then, after 20 years, decide to ask people to pay for it.
Plus, they're against electronic media because, obviously, they would never charge to see anything online. So what do you think the solution is?
Well, the Times does charge online. I think that the solution here is they're going to have to, from the newspaper point of view, they're going to need, first of all, I think the Times has probably shown the way on the quality side, but I think you're going to see print newspapers, particularly weekday print newspapers, disappear in this country sooner than people think.
And you're saying because all the revenue is tied to that, that's the major trouble. But again, I think if newspapers took a page out of radio is local. And the person driving down the street wants to know what happened at that Cardinal game last night. They want somebody's opinion on that game last night. They want to know what happened at City Hall down the block. The only place they can get that is if the newspaper exists, and the only way the newspaper is going to exist is if they pay for it. So I think in some ways the public is begging to pay for good quality information.
Well, I mean, perhaps, but if you look, for instance, at the figures in St. Louis, in 2010, the Post-Dispatch had print paid circulation of 213,000. In 2014, it was down to 137,000 from 213,000, and the latest figures are 110,000 copies that are actually being paid for on an average day.
Right, but that's print. But there are many more people reading it online.
No question.
Right, and and a percentage of those people would say, "Thank you, I'm going to go somewhere else and not get this information." But the majority of people, or some percentage, would actually pay for it. Let me ask you this question before we go: has there been a newspaper that has tried to force their readers to pay, and it was so abysmal they took that pay away?
The Dallas Morning News, I think, would object to quite that characterization, but went through pretty much exactly that course.
How can we find out more? Where's the story online?
The story's called "The Sky is Falling on Print Newspapers Faster Than You Think," and it's on Medium,
And
the blogging platform.
Is it free or is it behind a paywall?
It's free.
Okay. Richard Toffel, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. 758 KTRS.
Hey, it's John Carney, and I want to address the few of you that have not called